Hi there. So, welcome to today's episode where we talk with Suzanne Lane about finding more in your life. So, Suzanne is a founder of LifeQuest and she has spent over 30 years helping people find clarity and direction through her spiritual guidance, readings, workshops, and complementary therapies. So we touch on quite a few different modalities. Suzanne has a wealth of different tools in her toolbox that she brings in where working with clients to help them have more clarity and get unstuck. So she brings in kinesiology, she brings in manifestation, energy work, she brings in numerology. There's so many wonderful little bits and pieces that we cover today, the Reiki and lots of wonderful, positive, exciting energy. So without any further ado, let's get into this conversation with Suzanne Lane.
But before we get into this beautiful, energetic conversation, we just want to remind you about our newsletter. So, our newsletter is what we send out with tips, with advice, some of mine and Lenka's journey and what we're doing. It's all snippets, but we don't bombard you with it. You only get it twice a month. That's all we send out. It is just a way to keep in touch, to share extra little nuggets, extra little bits of information. And as I said, little bits for me and Linka. So yes, you get some nice bits and pieces. So do in the bottom in the description, you can sign up to our newsletter. So we would love for you to support us in this endeavor and just have fun with our newsletter. But now let's get on with this very beautiful, energetic conversation.
Hi, Suzanne. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
It is so exciting to have you here and to just look into your journey and soak up a little bit of your insights and wisdom. But before we get into all the nitty gritty, could you please let us and our wonderful listeners know a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, what brings you joy, and what fires really you up every single day to do what you do? We love to know what kind of gives people the energy every day to just keep moving.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, of course. Well, I do spiritual guidance readings, and it's a bit of a journey to get to do exactly what I do now. But at the moment, the way that I work is that I look at someone, I give somebody a reading, and I'm looking at where are they now, what's in their way, and what they need to do or make what changes they need to make in order to be the best possible version of themselves, change their outcome, but basically manifest something in their life that they're looking for. And to do that, I then go beyond that because I've discovered over the years that giving someone a reading is not enough. So I don't do you're going to meet tall, dark, handsome men, things like that. I am looking literally about what's going on in your life and how can you make those changes. And then I look at little tools. So I've come up with tools and things that I made for people over the years. I work with crystals. I work with numerology. I work with a variety of different kinds of oracle cards and even the Lomond cards, because I find that what I prefer to do when I'm doing a reading for somebody is they come to me, I don't know them, and I talk for the first 20 minutes. And then when we're nice and sure that I've got everything, in the right, way, and we've looked at the cards and we've given them an overview, then I say to them, you can say what you like now, and let's have a look at what you want to look at. And let's see how we can find out what's in your way and what's going on. But usually in the first 20 minutes, I've picked up most of it anyway, from the numerology, the Lenormand. I don't know if you've heard of Lenormand, but Lenormand is a little pack of cards that Madame Lenormand used to read to Josephine, who used to pass on to Napoleon. So they're quite old, and I only use them for where are you right now. And I use focus cards and a variety of things. So that's what I'm doing really. all sorts of different ways of looking at people and what's getting in their way, and really looking at the fact that we've got that sort of conscious mind, subconscious mind, superconscious. And how do we get in touch with that superconscious? How do we make new programs that help us manifest what we want rather than repeat old programs that give us the same? So that's what I'm doing. That's it in a sort of nutshell.
It's so interesting, and I can't wait to dive more into some of the specific modalities, tools, and approaches you're using. But I'm always curious to know, how did you ended up being and doing what you do? Have you been always, spiritual and looking out at these things from young age? Or, because for me, it's like, this is not necessarily the career that you are at school, you're looking at the university books, at the modules, like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do with my career. This is the business that I want to have. So I'm always curious to know, what led you on this journey of picking the tools, because we all get exposed to such a variety of opportunities and tools and modalities and trainings, and I'm always then interested to know what made you, what shaped you, what pushed you or pulled you towards specifically the path that you're on.
Oh, well, well, I'm going to start by telling you that I am incredibly left brain. So my journey has been quite difficult for me because I've always tried to understand things. And yet I started off, even as a child, I used to run into rooms really fast to see if everyone was moving, because I had this feeling that I totally believed there was someone up there somewhere, but I didn't know why I felt that. And I used to kind of charge into rooms, and everybody would be carrying on. I'd be thinking, I'm going to catch them. I'm going to catch them out. They're all going to be like this. Anyway, they never were. But as I grew up and as I got into my teens, I started having all sorts of different things happening. So different kinds of spiritual experiences. So at one time it would be more auditory, another time it would be picking things up from people, but I had no control over it, and it was all over the place. And I actually, to be fair, I started reading the tarot at 16, but by the time I'd reached 18, 19, 20, the whole thing was terrifying me, because I really didn't understand it. So I thought, right, that's it. I'm going off to do something kind of very ordinary. I went off to do teacher training, left that, decided I didn't want to be a teacher after all, because there were too many teachers. Also, I think I did the world a big favor not being a teacher. And I went off. I always had this thing: those that can do, those who can't teach. I know this is a bit rude, but that's what my parents used to tell me. And those that can't teach go into insurance. So that's what I did. So, and I'm joking really, but I went into insurance, and I was there for a few years. At the time, women weren't even allowed in Lloyd's, so it was a very long time ago. And whilst I was there one day, I worked for an American company. I had gone to work for somebody who had nervous breakdown, and I was left looking at multinational accounts, not knowing what to do with them. Very quickly, they couldn't process them. This is quite important to my story, because I didn't know what else to do. So I sat down and tried to work out how they could process them, because there was nothing else to do. And one day I worked out how to do it, jumped out of my chair, went, yes. And at that second, that one of the top guys from America happened to be walking down. I wouldn't have known him, who he was anyway. And he sort of asked me why I did it. And I told him, well, I just worked out how to process the multinationals, because I didn't know what else to say. And it turned out they were going to have a whole team of people to come and do it from America. So it wasn't really that hard. It's just that everybody thought it would be very hard. But because that happened to me, they then put me on a fast track. And so I was sent off to America and trained and had this corporate career. So I had that going on for about 10 years. And then I slowly started moving back, thinking, oh, but I really do now feel like I need to move back into that environment. And so I started going to little workshops and trainings, and then I had my kids and left and decided I'm going to do something completely different now. I'm trained to be a kinesiologist, did Reiki, aromatherapy, crystals. I mean, I just started doing loads of different things. Then I studied nutrition, and then I was doing everything really because I didn't know where to go. And because I'm so left brain, I was trying to make it fit. But every time I tried to go down the left brain, the energy stuff pulled me. So I was very into Donna Eden's energy medicine, but she didn't have a program when I was doing it. So I went to all the classes I could go in the UK, and then that was it. So I couldn't do that anymore because there wasn't any more to do. There is now, there's a whole Eden energy, but at the time there wasn't. So I ended up doing loads and loads of different things to find myself here. And the more I kind of tried to go down a more left brain, the more I ended up thinking, oh, well, actually, I do understand this energy. I can see how it works. I do understand that we're atoms and we're vibrating. I do understand energy moves in a certain way. And I do understand that it leaves us and becomes universal energy. And then the more I sort of got into that, the more I realized I can work with this and I can do this. So for the last 20 years, I've been using this kind of system, working with it, doing different kinds of trainings. Somewhere along the line, I did numerology. I invited somebody who used to travel the world called Paul Walsh Roberts, Paul Walsh, as he's now known more. And he came to stay, and I spent a lot of time talking to him about various different things over the years. And ultimately, I went to Egypt with him just recently. So a lot of the work that I'm trying to do, because this was about helping people understand how you can change your energy, how you can work with energies. So Egypt was about going and feeling all the energies of Egypt, seeing how you could, how it felt. So in May this year, I took a group of people and we went off to Egypt with Paul. And we had the most amazing time. We went off to, we started off in Luxor, and we went to all the various different temples there, because you've got the Karnak, you've got Luxor itself, Didendra, Ramesses. Some people went to the, who were with us, went to the Valley of the Kings, but I decided that was far too hot and I'd done that before. So I was going to do myself a favor and have a rest that day. But we then took a cruise down to Aswan, and went to the Philae Temple. And then we went into the desert and went down to Abu Simbel. And then we flew up to Egypt to do the pyramids, Saqqara. And it was an amazing trip. We certainly went to an awful lot of temples. And I think it would be fair to say that everybody was templed out by the end of it. But again, it was still about how we look at life. I really, truly believe that what I'm trying to work for, everything that I'm doing, is all about, we have to learn how to be joyful. If we want to be the best possible version of ourselves, we need to be joyful. And sometimes that's the challenge. How do you do that? How do you make those changes? How do you not let the world encroach on you? So that is the crux of what I do and what I'm trying to do.
Wow, there's so much in there. It's like what to pick out. But one of the things is I get with the Egypt trip. I went to Egypt in the sort of low 2000s, and it's one of my favorite holidays next to Venice. But Egypt has a really special energy, and it's just amazing. And to be templed out is like, yes, please, to go to all those temples. So some of those that you mentioned, yeah, brings back memories, and it's an amazing place. So I get why you would go there and take people there, because it's just such a special place. It's the history and just the temples and the different places, and the culture is just amazing. So thank you for sharing about that trip.
So I would love to go back a little bit to what it is that you do with people, what you help people with. You said you really help people to kind of get unstuck and find out what's blocking them. And I would love to know a little bit of what type of people come to you, what kind of challenges you see right now being the most common things that can be holding us back. How are we holding ourselves? Where are we looking to go, and where are we oftentimes then with your insights rerouted towards? Are there any, societal, are there any commonalities that you're picking up on that more and more clients, more and more people struggle with certain things or end up being blocked by similar experiences, similar thoughts, that then you help them overcome?
Yes, actually. I mean, numerology is terribly important to me because when I look at someone's numerology, I can see straight away what they're trying to move towards, what their destiny number is. And then then I look at another number of, how they're dealing with that. And that's very important in helping me kind of look at the person. But the kinds of issues that are coming up are very interesting. I have a huge mix of people, to be honest. I have a lot of businessmen, would you believe, that actually come in and ask me, what should I do, this or should I do that? I should say businessmen and women, because it's equal. I have about 50-50, which is surprising because when I first started, I definitely had more like 90% women, 10% men. It is now becoming much more 50-50 in the overall. So, and the big issue that I get from people who are working and want to look at their work is responsibility. And and that's a very big deal, because people sometimes, they're so worried about responsibility, they get themselves trapped. I can't make this change. What if I don't get another job? What's going on? How can I move forward? How can I deal with this person who's giving me a hard time at work? How can I change things so that this person who's bullying me, isn't? So I get an awful lot of, how do I deal with that? How do I deal with a bully? How do I this person's making my life very difficult. I feel like I should stay there and suffer. It's and it's about showing people, when they say to me things like, well, I need to change something because I'm not very happy, I should go and do this, and then they tell you something that's completely against what they really want. And it's about showing them how they can find what they want, without going too far outside of the parameters of what their life already is. Because sometimes, you can't tell people, well, just give up the job, and stroll around the world when they've got two young kids. And, you have to be realistic in what's going on in their life. So it's looking at, literally, where are you now? What is in your way? What's stopping you being joyful? Because if you are in alignment with love, joy, and happiness, then everything else is going to follow suit. I have developed quite a lot of different tools that I try and help people with. So one of the things that I try and get people to do, for example, is to give them little cards and things, and get them to create almost like their own oracle cards. So, because quite often responsibility is such a big thing. We even the things that we think that we should be doing are responsibility. So, I mean, how do you spend your day? You sit there and you think, well, I should have done this yoga, and I should have gone for a walk. I should have taken these nutrients, and I should have, said my Ho'oponopono, and I should have, done some super conscious light field work, and blah, blah, blah. So you get people getting themselves in a right old mess, because now they feel they're failing even in their spiritual practice, because if they did all the things that they have listed that they should be doing, they wouldn't actually get any work done, because there's so many different things that we're supposed to be doing. So one of the things I like to do is show people how to self-test. And I do it online, or I do it with people in person. Show them how they can self-test, help show them how to make little oracle cards, and then get them to just say, right, well, let's see how many you need to take a day. Maybe you only need to do 2 or 3 things, and this is good enough. So that's one of the tools that I've developed to try and help people. Another of the tools is that quite often it's, what do you say to yourself when you first get up in the morning? You know, do you say something nice to yourself? Do you look in the mirror and go, wow, you're gorgeous? Or do you look in the mirror and go, oh my God? You know, the thing is, if you do that, you've started the day on a kind of negative note. So I developed over the years these little cards based on it's based on numerology. So they've all got little titles that are based on the kind of 9 different personalities within numerology. And I get people to sort of just use those to say something to themselves every day. So I get them to balance on it, find the right card, say the line that is at the same time as some deep breaths, making sure they're hydrated, and also telling themselves, and they usually laugh, I say, you have to say you're gorgeous, because we start believing whatever we tell ourselves. We only need to tell ourselves something a couple of times a day and we start believing it. So, so if we start telling ourselves we're gorgeous, you know, even if you, after a kind of a few days, you know, 5 days, 6 days, you might be laughing and thinking, oh, you know, but I'm gorgeous, you know. After a while, though, you start looking in the mirror and thinking, well, I'm not so bad after all. And then eventually start feeling better. So it is about self-hypnosis as well. So these little cards about self-hypnosis. I've also developed other tools, like, for example, all these kind of little coasters. Now, these coasters, I put the intention of various different things. My clients sometimes ask me to create their own, or I have some generic ones. I either do them in little kind of card forms, or I sell them as proper coasters. And basically what they are is for people to, there's one, for example, this one, it's embrued in it is all sorts of different things like Lloyd mirrors, balancing numbers, all different kinds of therapies and things that I've learned over the years, and the crystals themselves. In it is all about manifesting the perfect results. This is my favorite one, manifesting the perfect result. The point is you put your water on it, because we've probably, a lot of us have heard about the Japanese chappie. I forgot his, I can't remember his name. It's at this moment, it's fled from my brain. But anyway, he did a whole thing about how if you write love, angels, anything like that, and then you look at the crystal, the water crystals under a microscope, you see these beautiful looking crystals. If you do the same with devil, wicked, awful, evil, you get these horrible looking crystals. And the point is, we're drinking that water. So if we are putting some intention and making a coaster with our intention and putting our water on that, then we're drinking our intention. We're not only trying to align ourselves with that intention, we're actually taking it internally as well. So that's another thing that I've been working on and working with people about, things to help them, because there are other things that I have developed as well, which is something called the superconscious light field, which is connecting with your superconscious and trying to help people get themselves into a place so that when they do feel like the world's, you know, crashing in on them, there's things that they can do in order to make those kind of immediate changes to stop that old subconscious with all those old patterns coming along and steering us in the wrong direction. So lots of different things that I've been doing over the years. I can't even think to tell you them all at this moment in time.
And that's okay. You know, we love getting few things that come to mind that kind of resonate in the moment, and I absolutely adore the idea of not only the intention coming onto a card and, you know, having a little bit of affirmation, manifestation, kind of talking to ourselves, telling wonderful things to ourselves, setting the intention and consciously reprogramming our brain, but also then bringing in those elements, bringing in the crystals, bringing in the water, and allowing almost the additional kind of benefits of our work through not always having to think about it, and having it kind of in our, because sometimes, as you said, we get to think a lot. There's lots of shoots, there's lots of expectations, there's lots of going on in our minds, in our careers. So having these tools of a simple coaster where, we can look at it and we can consciously use it to progress, but also simply knowing. And I think there's something about a belief and conviction and knowing that we don't always have to rationally think about in the moment, that still works in our environment, even when we're kind of just drinking water, just hydrating, not thinking about, like, wait a minute, but this is a good water for me because this water is magical, because this water is helping me even more than, if I wouldn't have intentional coaster underneath.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the reasons why I'm really into this at the moment is, it's amazing how science keeps catching up with the thoughts and practices of spirituality, if you like. And one of the things that I'm loving at the moment is this whole neuroscience where long-term memory is not in the hippocampus. And they believe now it's stored in the water in the cells, which becomes a gel. So if that's the case, then every bit of water that we take into our body is really important. And I also believe, as a kinesiologist, I do quite a lot of journey work as well, because sometimes we're holding an emotion somewhere in the body. So clearing that can also be very important as well. And I'm always looking at new ways of doing things, listening out for people's ideas and the way they express themselves. I actually encourage people. I've got somebody coming over from America next year who's going to be running some workshops here on. They're going to be working with wind, and they're also going to be looking at the layers of chakra, about where we hold things in our in our past, in our future, in our ancestral bodies. So I'm constantly looking at different ways of helping people move forward with the ultimate objective of just being in alignment of love, joy, and happiness. Because that's it. Once you've done that, once you've got that in alignment, everything will fall in place. The tough thing is getting there and staying there, and find it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying very, very hard to show people how they can align themselves and stay there as best they can. So it starts with the reading, and it ends up with a multitude of different thoughts, ideas, and everyone's different, which is why I've got different things, because what works for one doesn't work for another. It is, some people are better with sound, so work with sound. Some people are better with smell, work with smell. I run groups from my home as well, where we investigate things. So we get everybody trying out the sound and seeing if it helps a pain or an ache, and or an emotional thing. So each time we run one of these groups, we look at, let's all try it, let's all see it. Sometimes I'm the one that's worse. It's unbelievable. Especially when it comes to anything like, sometimes when I've done some things where we have, everybody's written down various ideas of what they've had, and some of them will be good ideas and some bad. And then we sort of jumble them up and number them. And then somebody's taking notes and we kind of put them down, and they walk on them, see how they feel. Which is an amazing way, because it's amazing how somebody can stand on something which is their own idea and suddenly feel how they feel about it, and have, they're standing on something, maybe one of them's a bad idea, and they go, oh, I feel awful, I feel dreadful. And then when we go back and look at it afterwards, they say, oh my goodness, I knew that was a bad idea. So they knew themselves. So we've, there's lots of different things that I've been experimenting with over the years, just to help people see their own. It's about really understanding your own inner intelligence and aligning with it, because everybody is incredibly intelligent, but sometimes they're a little bit closed off to it. So I'm just trying to open a few doors.
I love how you bring in a lot of different ways, because like you said, people are not one size fits all, and people react or need different things. And I love how it's not just one modality that you help with, but a variety of different ways that you can help people, because it again, it's not just the one thing, but it's so much more. And just finding what works for each individual. And one of the things that you have been talking about is numerology. And I know we've not spoken about it on the podcast before. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners have most probably heard of what numerology is, and they might have an idea. But I'd love for you to really dig a little bit deeper into it. What is numerology? How can it help? Because it's not something that is spoken about a lot, or I haven't heard it a lot, but I've known about it for most of my life. It's just come in and out of my life throughout the years. But so just for a bit more for myself, for Lenka, and for our listeners, can you really dig deep into what is numerology, how can it help, and what got you interested in numerology?
What got me interested? Let's start there. Well, I kept bumping into it. People kept talking about it. Somebody did it for me, and I thought, what is this? And then after a while, somebody told me about it, and I thought, I don't really understand this. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And so I started investigating a bit more, and then I found that there's a local gentleman that does it. Oh, what's his name? How awful of me to have forgotten. Perhaps I'll remember later. But also there's I learned from when I had Paul Walsh Roberts and his wife, who used to come at the time. She taught me a little bit about it. So over the years, I got more and more involved, went to see lots of different people. Eventually, spending Richard, his name is Abbott, Richard Abbott. I went and trained with Richard. As well as other people, but I loved his way of doing it. I loved the way that he set it out. And since then, I've been working more with, so with numerology, what you do, first of all, is to find out what your destiny number is. And so the way I look at it, first of all, is what's your destiny number? Because that number tells you what you're working towards, what you're trying to be. And your numerology is based on your name, but it's also more importantly on your date of birth, because you can't change that. You can change your name. So your name is like the clothes you wear in numerology. But your date of birth gives a real clue as to what you're trying to achieve in your life, what you've come in with, how you're trying to achieve it, and what personal goals you've got. So I kind of look at all of it, when I'm looking at someone. So I can say, if your destiny number is a certain number, then one of the things that you need to achieve in life, say if it was 6, it would be love and responsibility. So love and responsibility would be a big aspect, but quite often if someone's a 6, they're lacking in love, of themselves. So that gives me a huge clue if somebody's a 6, especially if they've come in with a 6, because it's very important that whatever number you come in with, you're using the positive aspects of it and not the negative, because those negative aspects can actually be quite difficult to deal with. Some people manage to sort them out when they're young. Other people are carrying them into their life and kind of expanding them and making life very difficult. Your numbers can be awfully difficult. So some people have got, so for example, one of my brothers is 1112, which makes it very, very difficult for him to expand his life. I mean, he's actually a very, very clever man who's really in his way an inventor, and comes up with all sorts of different ideas. But it's very difficult because for him to get out there, because all he's got is all these ones. One is about being independently creative, but it isn't giving him the impetus from other areas. So your numbers, all the numbers around you, which I put in a kind of grid as I'm looking at it, give me a real clue as to where someone is, how they're using that, what they really want for themselves, which isn't necessarily their destiny number. And as I said, what they came in with, I look at the whole lot, and then I start seeing it in the cards when I'm doing the reading. It all starts popping up. I see the numbers coming up. So if I know that their destiny number, say, is a 6, and all the cards keep coming up within the reading, and there's lots of 6s and, you know, other numbers associated, I can sort of really see, not just from the reading itself what's going on, but also how that affects them personally, maybe more than someone else, because that's their number. You know, you're with numerology, you also have a 9-year cycle. So we, depending on when we're born, and we add all our date of birth, our month, to the current year, and the current year starts on your birthday. So if your birthday is not till November, you're still in 2024. So you add those numbers all together, and that will give you the year you're in. And that 9-year cycle starts with a 1, which is all about sowing the seeds and beginning, and ends with a 9, endings. So as you go through that, you have the energies of the year impacting your life. So it's very, you know, it's so much that you can gain from numerology. And in doing a reading for somebody, you know, there's so much to tell them, which is why, you know, sometimes I can talk for 20 minutes to somebody, you know, before, you know, they even ask me anything, you know, because there's so much information. By the time I say, oh, can I just give you this first? 20 minutes later, I said, oh, now what's that question that you had? And I said, well, actually, you answered it, you know, because numerology is amazing. It gives you so much insight. So that's how I use it. And, you know, and numerology, once I grasped it and understood it, I started seeing the numbers everywhere. When I was doing readings for people, I would suddenly go, oh, my goodness me, they've picked this crystal. And then I identified all the crystal numerology and started working with that. So when I'm doing my grids, I'm actually working with the numerology of the crystals as well. So I'm using a lot of different energy techniques, and numerology is one of them, and it's one of the very powerful ones. I think it really helps people to understand why life's hard sometimes. You know, some people, life is a bit more complicated. They have got a harder journey in front of them. And, you know, you finding out what their numbers is, you can sort of help them think of different ways of helping them move in different directions. Because, like I said before, like we've said before, you know, it's not one person, not one shoe fits everyone, you know. And so it helps me see what shoe I can help somebody with, you know, whether they're a size 10 or a 1, you know. So
Oh, that was a great explanation, and it is something that has popped in and out of my life over the years. But I love the way that you've described it and introduced the topic to our listeners, because it might have been something that they've not thought of before, and hopefully you've planted a little seed and you know, get them more interested in, because numbers tend to be more for me, concrete. You know, 1 + 1 = 2. You can argue it, but it is what it is. Numbers might not feel so out there or so woo-woo, but it's more understandable while they're on it
yeah,
looking, and it can just help them.
definitely. I've definitely found as well, when I'm talking to people about numbers, even people who don't really believe in doing readings and things, you know, I found that people have kind of, once you do the numbers for them, you know, they say, oh my goodness, oh, that is me, you know, which is why when I was doing trying to get a daily, somebody to have a daily kind of affirmation, I actually used the numbers for my little cards, because, you know, if somebody is in a specific entrenchment like that, independently creative, or they probably haven't got any of the other numbers going on for them, so they probably do need to start, you know, looking and thinking, what's going on for me. I mean, I usually tell people, if they're a bit, can't do the kind of personal testing, just do it like a pack of cards, split them, see which one comes out on top. And then, just say, is it, do I want 1, 2, 3, or 4? Is it the first, second, third? Which one springs to mind? And then then look and see what it is. And usually people say to me, oh, that's amazing, because what came out for me was this. I don't think it matters how we come across the information, because our minds are incredibly intelligent, or we're electrical beings, which is why kinesiology works. When you ask somebody, when you ask their physical body, they know better, their physical body, we store so much information in it. It's wiser than the brain, which is telling us all sorts of other things that are going on, which quite often is what we tell ourselves to mask what is really going on for us. Which is why I've developed all these different things, because at the end of the day, what I find is that quite often somebody's saying, oh, well, this is going on, I need to do this. And actually something else completely different is going on, and they've masked it and they can't see it. I find that a lot with myself. I'm always doing it to myself. So, I wouldn't dream of working on myself. I have plenty of people over the years that I've trained with that I will go to, and I find myself falling down various holes. And when I find myself falling down those various holes, I then realize, oh my goodness, I need something to help me. And so many of the things that I've developed, and there are loads of different little tools that I've done, they started off to help me, because I didn't want to get trapped in this kind of old way of thinking. And I saw where I was falling down a hole, and I thought, oh my goodness, look, I'm doing the same thing again. How many more times, am I going to do this thing? And the trouble is as well, when we have something that's difficult in our life, quite often it keeps presenting itself, but in different ways. So unless we're not, we're looking at it in a very focused way, we can't see that we're repeating all these patterns. So I need someone else to sort of turn around and go, oh, Suzanne, you're repeating all those patterns. And then I think, you're right. So, and to be honest, these people who I have been to have brought me so much joy, because quite often everybody that I ever work with brings something amazing along and shows you something incredibly new. And it is about being open to whatever anybody comes up with, because they're the people that have helped me. Often it, just a little word or a little bit of advice or something, and suddenly I thought, oh, I could do that. That's something else I could try and do. So everything I've done, none of it's mine. None of it, and nothing that I have done is just mine. Everything that I've ever done has been that come along with the help of someone else. I know that everyone, I'm sure, says that, because none of us are dreaming anything up. But it is listening to these amazing, wise, incredibly wise people that have been in my life that have helped me develop who I am.
We might help others, but we also need help, and we don't live in a vacuum either. And it's sometimes that's saying, Doctor, heal thyself, is we might have the tools to help people, but we're not necessarily good at helping ourselves. So to have somebody else, help us and guide us is really good. And like you said, is knowledge that's gained. It is from other people and their experiences, but you've put your own twist on it and your own way of doing something and creating something that's unique through other people's work. Hopefully that sort of made sense. But
Yeah.
one thing you mentioned is
Kinesiology.
thank you. I'll put my teeth back in a minute. Can you run through what is that? What is just to explain a little bit in case people haven't heard that word before?
Well, kinesiology is muscle testing. So kinesiology itself just means muscle testing. As kinesiologists, we learn 48 different muscles, and they will give us a yes/no response. They will either go weak or they'll be strong when we test them against something. So They link to various different meridians or points on the body, which we would use to test. So that comes from something called Touch for Health, which many people may or may not have heard of. And then beyond that, we might get into journey work, and all sorts of other things, but we're asking the body the whole time. So kinesiology might be, I don't know if you can see my arm, if I kind of try and do this a little bit so you can see my arm. It would be, I mean, I'm doing it at 90 degree angle, which you'd never do, to be fair, because it's always about 45. But you just put a little bit of energy onto, or a little bit of pressure onto the arm, and it remains strong. But if you introduce something the body doesn't like, then the arm will go weak. And then you've got a response. You've got a yes/no response. As a kinesiologist, what I would do I trained in nutrition, a whole load of other things in order to use this. You introduce other checks and balances, because yes and no is not enough, so but that's a very basic explanation. I was actually on the board of the Kinesiology Federation actually for the last 5 years. I've only just retired. But kinesiology is very, very useful for giving you that yes/no response, so that you can, if you're asking someone, or if you're trying to look into someone's energy field and help them discover what it is they need in order to make some changes, then it's an amazing tool, because you can sort of check with the body and see where things might be out, may not be working, maybe a little bit off. So particularly when I'm running my groups and we're testing things, we're testing different sounds and what have you, we can see who feels suddenly stronger. And often we'll use something like an affirmation. So, you say to somebody, for example, I'm full of joy. And they say, I'm full of joy. And their arm goes, they're clearly not, So we then say, well, let's see what we can do to change that. And, so do you need some sound? Do you need a smell? Do you need, a chakra worked on? Do you need some crystals? It could be a whole row of things. Do you need to understand something else, an affirmation, or a card, an oracle card? So we will find out what the body wants by, just saying, is it this, is it this, is it this? Eventually, we come up with what it is. And we might be taken on a whole journey. They might need a whole stack of stuff. And at the end of it, you then say, are you joyful, or I am joyful, and they're strong. And it's about helping people clear the energy around them. It's always emotions. We store emotions in the body, So in that water, in that gel, and the biggest thing that is the most healing thing is laughter. So I think it's terribly important as well not to take yourself too seriously in all of this work. I really love to have my groups. I love them to laugh. So I know if they're laughing, if they are working with energy and they're laughing, they're healing themselves.
So it's almost like the kinesiology. I just can't say that word today. I don't know why.
Kinesiology.
Kinesiology. Apologies, everybody, for pronouncing it wrong. But it's a way that you can see if somebody's mind is telling them something, but their body is actually being the honest one. So it's you get to the honest truth when somebody is maybe not being fully honest with themselves. So I love how you can use the body to really see what's going on, because our little brains will tell us what we think we should do, the shoulding, or what we think we should be saying or
Yeah.
feeling, but we are not necessarily feeling it. So I love how you explained it, and how you really gave us a picture of how kinesiology can help. And I do apologize. I don't know what's going on with my today. It's
Kinesiology.
I normally can say it, but I'm gonna blame it on you can see boxes behind me. I'm in the process of moving country, so I'm gonna blame it on that. But thank you so much for really, explaining it and digging a little bit into it and helping our listeners to find new ways or different ways that they can help themselves on their journey. And of course, for me and Lenka, we always love learning more and finding out more. And on that note, Suzanne, can we please have a golden nugget?
Yes, I've got a very special golden nugget for you. One thing that I like to ask people to do, so it's two things, combination of two things, and they're both quite important. There's something called the Ho'oponopono. Now, you can go on a 2-week course for the Ho'oponopono, but it's actually 4 sentences. It's, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. But it is, I'm sorry to me for all the things I've done to me, for all the things that I've done that's hurt me, for everything that I've allowed people to do to me. I'm sorry to myself. Please forgive me. And I'm asking myself to forgive myself, because we have to forgive ourselves before we can forgive anybody else. So we might as well forget forgiving them and just start with ourselves. It's much easier. And then you say, I love you. And you say it to yourself, you really, really mean it. And finally, you say, thank you. You show yourself gratitude for being here. Now, that Ho'oponopono, I like to ask people, I have a meditation where I ask people to imagine a ball of light above them. And I ask them to imagine that light coming. This is your super conscious, where you can make new programs. It's where you have your light bulb moment. So you imagine that as a big golden ball, and you imagine it coming down and filling your body, filling your whole of your torso, coming down your arms, coming all the way down through your legs, coming out of your fingers and coming out of your toes. So you've got your super conscious, you've got the light coming all the way through you. It bursts out of your fingers and toes, recycles back into the light, and then you imagine it coming down. So you've got a super conscious light field. So in that state, when you've found that state, when you're in that moment, you then say the Ho'oponopono, because what you've then done, that 4 little sentences, what you're then doing is, in that state, you are asking yourself to let go of old programs that no longer serve you, and you're asking your light bulb self, your super conscious, to come up with some wonderful ideas that are going to help you be in alignment with your love, your happiness, and your joy.
Thank you so much. And this is why we love our gold nuggets. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now, for our listeners who are hopefully fascinated by numerology, want to find out more about kinesiology, who want to maybe just connect with you or find out more about what it is that you do, or just want to reach out, where can people find you?
Well, they can visit my website, which is lifequest.co.uk. And I'm also on Facebook, Spiritual Guidance Readings, or Suzanne Lane. You can just find me there. And basically, I run workshops either on Zoom, or I actually go quite often do them at Abingdon Barn. So if they look on Abingdon Barn, they'll see things popping up where we're offering to do. The next one we're doing is a sound one. I'm doing beginner's tarot actually in November. So my own unique way of doing it, because I have developed cheat sheets and different ways of doing things just to make it easy. And of course, I've introduced numerology into tarot, because if you know your numerology, tarot becomes easier, or easier anyway. So yeah, so I'm always around somewhere. Or if people want readings, again, they can just contact me either through the website or through Facebook, and very happy to offer readings.
Thank you. And all the links, all the connections will be in the description below, so people can easily find you, follow you on social media, find your website, check out the latest dates for upcoming workshops and events, and connect with you in whichever way works for them. Thank you so much for being here today. I love talking up your wisdom, your insights, your energy, learning from you. But on this podcast, we are a little bit greedy and we always want to squeeze in one last question. And because the mission of this podcast is finding ways to live happier, healthier, more fulfilled lives, which feels very much in alignment with what you've been talking about, I am curious to know what, for you personally, right now gives you life.
Well, I think that I like to celebrate things like the small things. If I'm cooking my dinner at night, I like to put on my favorite music and dance around the kitchen while I'm waiting for it to do it. I always did it with my kids and I still do it. You know, I love to see my grandchildren. Well, I've got one grandchild. I love to see my family. And I just enjoy sometimes just standing outside and sing. Like today, it's sunny, the sun's out. We went for a lovely walk this morning. It's, to me, it's just about remembering the very beautiful things, seeing what's beautiful in the world, not concentrating on all the difficult things, just concentrating on what I love. Because I think that if you think about constantly all the things that worry you, you know, I've got one philosophy. Let me share my life's philosophy with you. You know, can I do something about it? Yes, do it. No, forget it. Move on, because there's nothing you can do, and I'm not going to get myself. And it's taken me many years to get there. It's, but I do believe now that I don't let myself get caught up in things I can't change. There's no point. What can you do? You just do the very best you can. And that's now what I feel is what I do.
Love that philosophy. Love it. It's simple, practical, and it stops you getting bogged down in the stuff that you don't have any control of or can't change. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And thank you for sharing your energy and your enthusiasm and your experience with us today, because anybody who's watching the video will see your energy and your smile and the exuberance that you've brought with you today. So we really appreciate your time. So thank you so much for just being with us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And for our listeners, what have you got from today? Is it the numerology? Is this something that's sparked an interest in you? Or is it something that you've actually done before? We'd love to hear what your experiences are. Or what aha moments have you got from today? We've talked about a lot of different modalities and connecting the modalities. Do you have a different way of doing something, or have you experienced a different way of doing something? We would love to know. But until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.